Hi, welcome back to my channel. I am filming another burst of videos today. My husband is very kindly watching our daughter again. And don't just think I make him watch her. While I do my booktube and editing, he does D&D and I watch our daughter then. So, even Stevens. Today, I'm really excited because I'm going to review the 21 books I wanted to read in 2021. I found some new favorites and some best of the year, as well as some absolute duds. So I will be going through them. I'm ranking them from like worst to best and just going through the ones that I thought I would read no problem were actually huge problems, and so on. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into it. I'm going to start off with the books that I just did not even attempt. So I think there were 4 of them. So the ones I didn't even attempt, I'm not going to talk about because they're still on my shelves. I didn't even pick them up. So Monster by Frank Peretti, Last Will by Bryn Greenwood, The Hunger by Alma Katsu. I was planning to read this in October and then I was super pregnant and didn't feel like reading, so hopefully maybe this year. Call Me By Your Name, which is making another appearance on my 22 in 2022, so yeah, I'm planning to read it this year. And now we are to the books that I did read and are currently reading, I guess you could say. So we have Romantic Outlaws. I've been reading this book for about 3 years, I think. It's just a very dense nonfiction about Mary Shelley and Mary Wollstonecraft. So I'm hoping to finish this, but this is not a goal for 2022. This is just a lifetime goal. Before I die, I will read this book. So this is a currently reading. And then I have The Forest of Hours by Kerstin Ekman. This is a, I believe, Swedish, Swedish novel following a forest troll through hundreds of years as society changes and civilization goes from cave to industrial revolution to modern age. I was actually really enjoying it, what I was reading, except that the pace is quite slow. So during pregnancy and now with my daughter, I need more fast-paced novels. So I want to read this. I'm not DNF, I'm not getting rid of it at all, but for right now I'm just putting it down with the intention to read it later. So those are all the books that I didn't really touch or get to. So yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 of them I didn't really give an honest good try, but 15 of them, which I think is a really good amount, I did read. So we're gonna start off from the worst to the best. So the only DNF that I plan on donating is Ocean Sea by Alessandro Baricco. So this was a huge disappointment because I read Without Blood by Alessandro Baricco and it was really delightful. So yeah, so I read this one and it was quite surprising and really good. So I thought that this one would be as well. It wasn't, it was boring, and I've been waiting all year to donate this because I read it, attempted to read it multiple times last January. So it's literally sat a year waiting for me to donate it, but I haven't just because I wanted to hold it up. That might be silly, but that's what it is. All right, next. No surprise to anyone, A Luminous Republic by Barba. This was in the video that just went up today about my worst reads of the last year. So watch that video if you haven't. I'm not going to get into it again, but this one made me very angry, and it's one of my bottom 4 reads of 2021. So if you want to hear me rant about it, that video is up now. Then I have Eileen, and this is the start of the 3 stars. So these are books that weren't necessarily bad, but I felt generally lukewarm about them. So this is Eileen by Ottessa Moshfegh. Ottessa Moshfegh has a beautifully disgusting writing style, very visceral, and I really loved My Year of Rest and Relaxation. I'm not gonna get it, it's on the shelves. My Year of Rest and Relaxation was quite good. I just really felt the ennui emanating from that character, and this character is following a woman who works at a prison, and she gets introduced to this woman who's very mysterious and starts to be influenced by her. Overall though, I just found the plot really disappointing. So the writing style gets an A+ from me, but the plot and the story itself was a huge letdown, so that led to the lukewarm 3 stars. Next up, I have another 3-star, When I Was 10 by Fiona Cummins. This one was supposed to be about two girls who go next door and murder this family, and then you're finding out what really happened. Only the pacing was off, and there were too many characters' points of views in here that I just didn't care about. I wish that there had only been one or two points of views instead of multiple, and also I could see what was coming from so far away that by the time we got there, I wasn't really thrilled. So this was a non-thrillable thriller. I was not thrilled, and that's the whole point. So I gave it 3 stars. And just so you know, all the books up till now I am donating. So this one is going. It was just meh. And then the last one that I'll be donating is The Sound of Stars by Alicia Dow. This was such a huge letdown. So this is about a alien invasion that comes to Earth and puts people in basically like human camps where they stick them all in like a building and they monitor them. And our main character is, I believe, a bisexual black girl who has a secret hoard of books, which are like illegal, but she kind of trades them secretly and lets people rent them from her hidden library, which I was 100% down with. And then it involves like her and this alien who's trying to discover like what humanity is all about and how to be human. Only it was just ridiculous. It was just ridiculous. I mean, obviously the plot takes suspension of disbelief because it's an alien sci-fi, you know, but like the alien really loves pop music and it's kind of insta-lovey, and just the plot was just ridiculous, and the end was just so ridiculous. I just no. This is YA though, so I do understand that maybe I'm just aging out of any YA whatsoever, because I have not had very many good YA reads this year. I think like only one that I can think of that like blew my mind. So I think I'm just too old. I'm a 30, how old am I? I'm a 31-year-old lady. Yeah, I'm just too old. Yeah, so this is the last one that's gonna be donated. All right, so now we're getting into 3.5 stars. So 3.5 is a weird spot where like there was something probably that I didn't like about the book, but it probably stuck with me. So that's what gets 3.5. And first up, that definitely applies to this book, The Discomfort of Evening, by Marieke Rijneveld, who is a non-binary author from the Netherlands. And this book is so very dark. Ultra dark and bleak. I think I read a lot of dark books and they're dark in different ways. This one is dark in like a religious and super like depressing, as in like actually pressing down on the community and the people living in it. This has stuck with me and has haunted me, and the end especially is haunting, and I will be keeping it. Next up we have Soft Science by Franny Choi. This is a poetry collection about growing up queer and Asian in America, and it also combines elements of water imagery and machine imagery, which if there's any two types of imagery that I love, it would be machine AI and also water ocean mermaid. So this was really good. I gave it 3.5 stars though, because either I absolutely fucked with the poem and loved it, or it completely like went over my head. I didn't get it and I didn't like it. So poetry collections are so hard. I don't think I've ever read one that was like a solid 5, maybe like a 4, but 3.5 is quite good. And then the last 3.5 stars is one that I'm so mixed on, because again, it's hard to recommend to people because it's a book that kind of is over a really long time span. It's kind of all over the place, and you have to be fine with dark content, but also fantasy and sci-fi and dystopian. It's just like, you have to like all of the things to kind of like this book. This is Hybrid Child by Mariko Ohara, Japanese translation. So this is following an escaped machine hybrid organism where it feeds on anything, machine, plant, or animal, and it can morph into that. So it can eat like a piece of a fighter jet and become a fighter jet. It can eat a piece of a girl and become a girl. So this being takes the pronouns of whatever they are imitating or mimicking or living as, and they travel throughout the galaxy, and they're being hunted by the corporation that made them. but there's so much more than that going on. Like, that's just the very barest minimum explanation. There's like time travel, huge crystal dragons floating through space, a planet controlled by this maternal AI system that's kind of gone crazy. There's just like so much in here, so much. So if you want more information specifically about certain things, check out my reviews on Goodreads for any of these books. Yeah, but this was 3.5 stars. It has really stuck with me, but I could see why people maybe wouldn't like it because it is far from perfect, but overall, I really enjoyed it. All right, so now we are to the juicy 4 stars. So I'm just gonna scoot them over to me. So a 4-star that I want to talk about is The Binding by Bridget Collins. So I have mixed feelings about this because I gave 4 stars to this book, but the reason I haven't brought it up and the reason I haven't really put it on the list is because the author, it came out as a TERF. Like the other books on my shelves that have had problematic authors, I read them, and if I liked them, I will keep the book, but I don't talk about them on my channel. So I'm not going to mention anything about this book other than that I gave it 4 stars, but I don't recommend you pick it up, and I will not be continuing on in the series. Okay, next up, a 4-star that was sadder than I anticipated was The Stars and the Blackness Between Them by Junauda Petrus. So this is about a girl from Trinidad whose family finds out that she is a lesbian, and they decide to basically deport her from her family to go live with her like father, who she never knew and didn't grow up with, who lives in America, to like kind of straighten her out. But really the joke's on the family because like the father's own daughter is queer and they hit it off. However, this was kind of, I was thinking it was going to be a romance, and it is like kind of, but more so it's extremely sad and deals with really heavy topics of like cancer and grief and family loss and just really heavy things. I cried. Yeah, so overall, I think this book got a 4 because it was way different than what I expected. So it took me by surprise, and it wasn't a surprise that I really wanted. I don't really like to read books that are super sad on purpose because I like my books to be escapism. So that's why this was 4 and not higher. Okay, next 4-star is Ice Massacre by Tiana Warner, who is a Canadian author. So this one was great. It's an FF fantasy romance featuring an ice warrior who has been trained by her people to hunt down killer sirens who are impacting their trading because it's an island nation. So she goes out to kill the sirens, only she comes face to face with her childhood friend who happened to be a siren, and they became friends on the shore before they knew it was like forbidden. So yes, this book was great. I give it 4 stars, and I will be continuing on. My library for some reason has the 3rd book, but not the 2nd book. So I'm gonna see if I can request it so that I can read obviously the 2nd before the 3rd. Yeah, but the whole series has super high ratings. So if that's something that interests you, absolutely do go for it. Next up, along the same lines as like oceany theme, is The Grace Keepers by Kirsty Logan. So this is set in a waterworld dystopia where there are basically 2 main characters. One is North, and she works as an acrobat with her bear on a traveling circus ship. And the other one is named Callanish, and she is a grace keeper, which means people bring their dead to her, and she takes care of the dead by putting them into the sea and going through the funeral rites. And when they meet, the story goes off from there with them intertwining in each other's lives throughout the story. However, this book is only a 4 instead of higher because the end, 3rd, was like hijacked by 2 characters that I don't care about at all. I wish this book would be rewritten without those 2 characters. It would be so much stronger, and I would probably give it like a 4.5 or maybe even a 5. But as it stands, it's certainly imperfect, but a great read if you like water dystopias, FF, or just really like weirdly atmospheric books. So really recommend. And then right in the bridge between 4 and 4.5, we have a 4+, and this is The Hunted by Gabrielle Bergmoser, my favorite thriller of last year. This was so high octane, I couldn't put it down. I think I read it in 1 or 2 sittings, and then my husband immediately read it after, and it was just like that was really intense and totally crazy. So we're following a main character who is visiting her grandfather at his like rundown petrol station in the middle of nowhere outback Australia, and all that's there is the petrol station and his house, and there's nothing else around, when one day this car drives up and kind of crashes into the front of the petrol station, and a woman stumbles out. She's been shot and knifed and bleeding, and she passes out unconscious. They decide to take her in and try to help her when people come looking for her, and it is a like super fast-paced last stand in the Australian outback, with starring like this granddaughter who's I think a teenager, and the grandfather who happens to be like I think like a war veteran, so he's good at shooting, and these people who are hunting this woman for reasons that become known, and they are woo, bad people. So yeah, I really recommend this if you like really bloody thrillers, but definitely don't read it if you don't like gore, because there is a lot of it in here. Okay, so now we are to the 2 books that I gave 4.5 stars, and these are my top 2 for this list. So we have The Weight of the Stars by Kay Ancrum. I had high expectations for this, and she did not disappoint. So Kay Ancrum is one of my like favorite authors, I would say, because I've given such high ratings to both of her books. This is following a girl who's new to town, and long ago her mother went on a one-way space mission into like the deep space. So she climbs up on her roof every night to see if she can hear transmissions from her mother. And she's new to town, and the teacher kind of asks this other girl if she will help her get like acquainted with the town and also help her at school. So it doesn't start off great. They kind of start off as misunderstood enemies, and then as time goes on they learn more about each other. And the one whose mother went missing, she comes from a very affluent family. However, the more she learns about the other girl, she realizes that she lives like in a trailer park. She's just trying to make ends meet and take care of her family and her brother and her niece who live with her, even though like she's in high school, and she has a lot on her plate. So they teach each other a lot, and the end was sappy but good. For me, The Wicker King is a 5-star. I think in this one is a 4.5. So The Wicker King's like a little better in my opinion. But I still really loved this book and give it 4.5 stars. So highly recommend if that sounds interesting to you. And then the last book, and my favorite book of the ones on this list, was I'm Not Scared by Niccolò Emaniti, which is an Italian translation. I gave this 4.5 stars, and it was so good. That's so good. I love when books that you expect like nothing of just catch you by complete surprise. So this is about a boy during the summer who is bike riding around with his friends, and picture like they're just racing their bikes through the fields when he stumbles upon a house, and his friends dare him to go through the like top floor of the house because it's like all rotted, so it's a bet. And he goes through, but he discovers something hidden in a cellar, and he doesn't tell his friends, and he has to decide what he's gonna do about it, if anything, and things go from there. But what's in the cellar has to do with something that the adults in the community are taking part in and doing and keeping to themselves. So it's very dark, and the end I thought was just absolute perfection. This book was so good. So if that sounds interesting to you, definitely check it out. This is like just summer vibes in the darkest way possible in the Italian summer, like countryside. And that wraps up my 21 in 2021. Yeah, so I read the majority of them. I think it's 71%. So basically, yeah, I think I did really well. And I can't wait to try and read my 22 in 2022. Let me know what you thought of this, and if any of the books you agree with me or didn't agree with me, I would love to know, and I will check you out. I will see you in another video soon. Lots of love. Bye!